And welcome everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. I'm joined by Jeff and Will from Media. We're talking fantasy sleepers today. We've each got one sleeper. How are we doing tonight, guys? Football is almost here. How are we feeling?
Great. I was in training camp last week and went to
Yeah?
a meeting. Yeah. Patriots, man. It's amazing how a coaching change can instill new life into a team.
Yeah. And how a wide receiver drafted in the second round can go to not making the roster the year after that with Jalen Poole there.
Right.
That's one that's kind of scratching some heads, but he'll probably be released if I had to bet. He's on the outside of that roster bubble looking in right now. So he's a guy who we will not be talking about today on our sleeper show. I don't think anyone's really going to be diving too deep into the Patriots wide receivers. It could be any one of them, but we do have three guys for you. I'm going to start it off with the guy who is over my shoulder here, Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young, he profiles to improve this year. If you look at his stats over the back half of last season, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback. He almost led the league in big-time throws. And what do you do when you have a guy like this who has a good offensive line? You go and you get him a weapon. They drafted Tetairoa McMillan, 8th overall in this draft. They brought in, a big playmaker, a guy who produced in college, a guy that, should be able to withstand being a wide receiver one in the NFL. He still has Thielen. Jalen Coker looked good last year. Ja'Tavion Sanders hopefully taking a step forward. They still have Chuba, and that offensive line remains intact from what it was last year. So Bryce Young, his rookie year, extremely uncomfortable, one of the worst offensive lines in the leagues. He never really looked like he was able to set his feet. He was kind of antsy, and he really was not the guy we saw in Alabama. And then you flip to last year, the last 10 games of the season, Bryce Young was on pace for, I think, 400 rushing yards. He was able to move around with the ball. He was able to scramble. He felt more comfortable, even looking at the plays he was making in the preseason, which obviously you're not trying to read too much into it, but there's a nice behind-the-shoulder pass to Tetairoa McMillan down the sideline, a good scramble finding Jalen Coker in the end zone. So I don't think this is necessarily a team where, Tetairoa McMillan is going to be a wide receiver one, but I think that the amalgamation of guys, they have Hunter Renfrow as well that they brought in, is going to be able to sustain Bryce Young. I have him as my quarterback 10. His current ADP is 24. So when you're looking at a guy who's going at the quarterback 24, I think he's a big sleeper. If you're in a two-quarterback league, I think he's a guy you should definitely target as your second quarterback. And even if you're in a one-quarterback league, maybe you're streaming the position, I think he's a guy with maybe an easy earlier schedule that you can plug and play. And I expect this offense to take another step forward in the second year under Dave Canales. Will, Jeff, do you feel the same way about Bryce Young? You think that he can make that step forward with the new weapon?
Oh, can't hear you, Jeff.
Jeff put the headphones in, and Jeff is talking about how much he loves Kyle Pitts. I know that's who his sleeper pick's going to be.
Kyle Pitts.
I'm not sure what happened to Jeff there, but Will, what are your thoughts on Bryce Young?
I think Bryce Young, you're happy for him, right? Because everybody was so eager to write him off. And I think this year you see the next evolution of his play and his step up. And yeah, I think he's underrated, right? People that they still have first year Bryce Young on their mind, and it's like they ignored last year.
Yeah. Even if you had first half of last year on your mind, like you kind of he was benched, and then he comes out and he balls out the second half of the season. That's really what you got to look at here. Jeff, are you available to say anything on Bryce Young, or your hatred or your love for Kyle Pitts blinds you? He hopes that his love of Kyle Pitts blinds him. I don't, Jeff, you are unmuted on my end at least. I don't know. You were perfectly fine until we hit the record button, and Jeff has disappeared again. He's like, I love Kyle Pitts so much. That's all he wants to say. We'll come back to Jeff once he can get his mic figured out. But, Will, who is your sleeper?
Oh, Brashad Smith with the Chiefs. He's going ADP 60. ADP 60.
Test.
You can hear you now, Jeff.
Hey, hear you now, Jeff.
No Kyle Pitts. Anyway, go ahead, Will.
Look, I just think if you watched him last year at SMU, you see the potential he could be, and it was a position change, right, from wide receiver to running back. And I think that type of combination works for certain teams, especially for the Chiefs. So I think it might be a guy that comes on later in the season, but it's a guy later in the season that could win a league for you, win a playoff game for you, because he's getting there and he's getting 5 catches and a touchdown. Right?
Yeah, I think he's got to earn the trust of Andy Reid, and then this is, you said, it's an offense that can utilize a guy of his skill set. Think of guys like Ty Montgomery, who in the right offense, wide receiver turn running back, can succeed. And this team really, Isaiah Pacheco is there, supposed to be the starting running back, but he really didn't look great last year coming off the injury. Will he look good again this year? Kareem Hunt's there. Kareem Hunt, who I profiled to be the touchdown guy, the receiving guy, but Brashad Smith could come in and take some of that receiving role away. Jeff, what do you think about this Chiefs backfield? Are you in on Brashad Smith as maybe a guy you don't draft, but a guy you just keep an eye out on waivers and maybe try and get a week ahead?
Yeah, I think he's actually going to slide into one of those roles like another one of Will's favorites, former Viking, 49er, then Chief, Jet. No. What's his name, Will?
I thought you were going to say Cordell Patterson.
No, not Cordell Patterson.
McKinnon, right?
Derek McKinnon,
yeah.
Exactly.
Derek McKinnon,
exactly. Yeah. I think he's going to go in that role. I think he's going to, get you some points some weeks. Other weeks is going to be kind of lean. So it's another reason for me to kind of stay away really from the Chiefs backfield. I've been hearing a lot of people being really high on Pacheco, but I'm just like, there's a lot of mouths back there to feed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're recording a bust pick right after this. Pacheco was on my list because I don't think that he's going to be the guy for the whole season for them. Jeff, your guy here is a really big sleeper. He's currently a sleeper if you're playing in a home league, but in the fantasy community, this guy's getting a lot of hype right now.
A lot of hype. And I want to say, I think I picked him up like maybe 2 months ago in our league. It was a long time ago. And that is JCM, Bill, or what his mama named him is Jacory Kroskey Merrick.
Yeah.
I think he is going to end up being the RB1 in the Washington backfield. And I think he is actually going to be one of those guys that could actually be a 3-down back, which might push former Charger Eckler to the back as the season goes on. So I think he's going to be one guy that's they're really high on, and I think they're going to try to get him the ball. A lot of people are looking at Chris Rodriguez right now, but he wasn't necessarily he's a holdover from Ron Rivera's regime. So, although they're using him now, I think this guy is going to pay a lot of dividends.
Yeah, I think when you look at Bill, as he wants to be called, it's all going to depend on can they move Brian Robinson Jr. before the season, which is what they're planning to do. They held him out of the last preseason game, whether that's because they kind of don't see that big a drop-off between him and JCM or
they held him out of practice today as well.
Yeah, or it's partially because probably Brian Robinson Jr., he wants volume, he wants to go get paid somewhere else. So kind of a best for both teams, hopefully. With that being said, I think that JCM can, by the end of the season, kind of take over the first, second down role, possibly, working with Austin Eckler. I don't see this upcoming season him being a 3-down back, but I can see him kind of emerging as maybe the guy who's scoring the most fantasy points. But Eckler, to me, if they trade away Brian Robinson Jr., Eckler would be my guy who I'm placing bets on as my sleeper in this backfield. I think that Eckler has been a fantastic goal line back throughout the course of his year. If Brian Robinson Jr. is not there, I think that that's probably a direction they go with Eckler. And I think, again, as we said, Austin Eckler is already the passing downs back. So when they're in 2 minutes and that kind of stuff, and you're in an offense with the Commanders who are going to score, I think that will be Eckler just because he has the trust of the staff. 7th-round running backs don't often come in and really do too much, but he didn't really play football at all last year as well. So I think it could take him some time just to get back into football, but we'll see. I do think that there's definitely worth taking a shot on him late in drafts at this point. Because I think, to me, if Brian Robinson goes away, Austin Eckler and Bill are both going to be great values in your drafts in the next couple of weeks. Will, what do you think? Are you more Austin Eckler's or Bill's side of the?
I'm going to go with Bill. I just think the kid is emerging, and he's looking good. And the Commanders, they're gonna, some coaching staffs are more loyal blindly to established guys, and I don't get the sense the Commanders are that team right now. So I think they're going to give him a chance now.
Yeah, being loyal to their guys who've been there throughout everything, and then they still decide not to pay him. Right, that doesn't sound like a very loyal.
No, they're not, and they're not bound by that. So, are we believe he's really shocked that this team that won't pay the established vet decide to go with Bill?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really what this is showing. If they're going to trade away Brian Robinson, is that they do believe that him and Rodriguez and Eckler can kind of give a similar production. I do think, especially early in the season, it'll be a lot of Austin Eckler, but Austin Eckler's not been a guy who's like, I'm going to be on the field for 17 games a year. And when that happens, that could really be Bill's time to really step up and show that he can be that 3-down back that Jeff was talking about. He was great in college, and then he went to ASU, and then they decided that he could play, and then they decided that he couldn't play. So he really didn't get to watch him play much. But I think that he's definitely a guy that later in drafts, currently at the time of this recording, Brian Robinson Jr. is still on the team, but by the time this comes out, or by the time you're watching this, he may not be on the team. And if that's the case, then I think that you definitely take your shot on both of them. Maybe take some Austin Eckler in some leagues, take some Bill in the other league. So I like those 3 sleeper picks. As I said, we're recording another show for Bus, which will be coming out in a week's time after this one airs. So make sure you guys check that one out as well. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you target these drafts or these sleepers in your drafts. And we'll see you again in a week's time. Thank you, Jeff and Will, for joining me.
Thank you.